Driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today and driving it home. So much of what Joan covers fills my mind, especially when it comes to journalism and what we cover and how it's covered. And you heard during the news the AP talking about, whether or not, the AP talking about itself, essentially, and not following an executive order to call the Gulf of Mexico the name we've all known it for hundreds of years. I'm just saying. At any rate, it's so hard because, as Joan was saying, there are people building platforms on social media, developing followers, some of them becoming kind of sort of journalists and influencers, right? There's a young man named Aaron Parnas is one of the people that I follow. He does a lot of the breaking news out of D.C., a lot of the stuff about tariffs, the Supreme Court decisions. I'm sure I haven't been able to check in on his feed today, but I'm sure that he covered what was discussed during the press conference today, press briefing in regards to the tariffs now being at 104% for China, but also whether or not it is legal for this administration to deport U.S. citizens. And they're saying it again, right? The way they said it before with people who are here illegally, undocumented, all those things, that it was only going to be the nastiest criminals, the most vicious criminals. And we are seeing fathers being ripped away from their families, kids. There was a third grader who was handcuffed yesterday. We've seen people who are here legally being pulled over, detained. We have a man who was given the ability to stay here legally in 2019. This gentleman out of out of Maryland, who they say now was a mistake, and now because the what's her name? I don't know what the woman's name is that does the press conference. I try not to learn all of their names. There's just so many, just plasticky, fake, too much makeup and badly done, and wearing a cross because it's, they tell us that we virtue signal, and then wearing a cross and telling us during a press conference that you were trying to find ways to deport legal citizens. U.S. citizens, not even like people who've come here. No, U.S. citizens who, by whatever metric they've decided, is vicious and dangerous and the worst kind of criminal. They admit that they sent this guy to El Salvador, to a prison that we know is essentially a gulag. They know it's a mistake, and she went in front of those cameras and said that he was a violent gang member when that was, one, never proven. It was investigated. His version of this was that he was fleeing violent gangs as a young person in El Salvador. His family's business was being attacked, and the whole family fled here for their safety. And in 2019, a judge decided that he could stay here legally. And that was under the Trump administration. And now we can't get him back. And the Supreme Court decided yesterday that it's okay that he wasn't returned immediately by midnight last night, even though a federal judge demanded it, that had written that order. We also have that the Alien Act, which is over 200 years old, is now something that we can, because we are being invaded by gangs. But now, what are they going to categorize U.S. citizens who are violent criminals, and how? We already have these folks saying that if you commit a crime, you don't deserve due process. But that's the whole point, is to make sure that that person is guilty. And even then, we have people we know are wrongfully convicted. Oh my God, you guys, I'm so angry. I didn't know. I didn't know how angry I was until I opened the microphone, because I've been working all day. I'm so frustrated with what's already negatively impacting hundreds of thousands of families across the state of Illinois and throughout the Midwest and, of course, the country. But as I mentioned yesterday, DOJ has shut down the Head Start office in Chicago, which served Illinois plus 5 other states. Like in Wisconsin, there are people scrambling. There's nobody to communicate with. Oh, and in Wisconsin, and this is going to be true in most of the states. I don't know if you're familiar with teaching safe sleeping, which means making sure that families are educated in not having a baby in the bed. They might roll over what should be in the crib, not to have too many plush items or any of those those bumpers that might cause a choking hazard or a strangulation hazard. They're going to cease those programs because that was under programs like Head Start. That was also Head Start and other organizations that are funded by them help with early intervention. With IEPs, kids who have disabilities. Easter Seals will be losing some of their support services. And these are the things that Republicans and MAGA are super crazy excited about because, well, of course, a child being able to stay safe in their home and have the supports that they need, that they should suffer. So that I don't even know what the end game is here, because Musk has already said you ain't getting a check. It's not going to be a rebate check. It's going to be lower cost. And remember, what was the other thing? I feel like asking folks, remember when actually this is directly to Head Start. Does anybody remember, I don't have any prizes, but does anybody remember what Trump said when he was campaigning, when he was specifically asked at that education forum about Head Start? Do you remember what he said was going to fund that? Because this is another thing that's making me, the stock market thing alone today, where the Maggots were all excited that the market was rallying. It was already one person on my wall. This guy is, you guys, I know that we shouldn't call people stupid or morons or dumb as hell, but one guy was like, the stock market's surging over 14,000 points today. I'm sorry, could you not just so boldly exhibit your ignorance? Their confidence in their stupidity, I guess, is what's so galling to me, is they're just simmering in it is just incredible stupidity and blaring it out there. And I know I shouldn't engage, but I figure so that other people can learn from their mistakes. There's a woman, I think her name is Kitty, who keeps popping up on my wall about all different things and about how there were 228,000 jobs added in February. And all you have to do, you guys, is Google and learn more of the context around that, right? And learn that jobs were depressed in January and February, in part because of weather. There was all kinds of fiascos happening all over the country, the wildfires. So jobs were down in January and February. However, oddly, even though jobs were added more so in February, unemployment went up to 4.2. It ticked up. So, just use some of that. I get it. But to come on my page and yell at folks who are interested in the conversation and say, do you listen to anything besides Patty's show? Do you watch anything besides MSNBC? Do you watch anything besides Fox? Do you listen to anybody besides Sean Hannity? And here's the thing. No, I don't go listen to them, but I do go listen to neutral news sources. I read other news, and I'll read a variety of them. What does Fortune magazine say today? Because they do a lot of business coverage. What is CNN covering? What is in Forbes? If we're going to talk about the stock market, you can go to different. You don't just stop at the one. You don't just stop at the headline and then spit that out at me. Oh my God, why am I need to, you guys, how is everyone hydrating today? I think, you know what I need right now? I need to do a little bit of this. I think I just realized I might need this. Okay. So angry. How are you guys? Are you hydrating? Hold on, let me get my emotional support cup. If you're watching on Facebook, you can see my monstrously large pink. It's not a Stanley cup. I got this at one of the, the off-brand or the TJ Maxx places, but this one is by Hydra Gear, and it's a very lovely cup. It's a little sparkly, keeps me in a good mood. I also have my emotional support dumpster fire, because that's what we're in. We're in a dumpster fire, and there are these people who are so happy that it's all burning down. Well, and they went from gas prices are going to go down and egg prices are going to go down and the war in Ukraine is going to be over to, these things take time. Well, and I knew that before. I'm not saying, but I'm just the ability to which MAGA has to just twist itself into this illogical pretzel. Again, Joan and Richard were talking about this earlier. They were talking about this the idea that maybe the legislator out of Iowa who says that maybe they leaked it on purpose. And mind you, we've said that on this show. We've said, hey, I wonder if this was on purpose to maybe somebody wanted to reveal it and make somebody look bad. Maybe they wanted the world to know what J.D. Vance thought about, I guess we got to save Europe again. But here's the thing. The number, whatever that woman with the microphone at the press conferences says, or whatever Trump says, or any of these mouthpieces, that's the new thing, and that's all they run with. Well, first it was this terrible reporter from a terrible news outlet. They do a terrible job. They're very biased. Oh, well, he hacked into it. Well, but then we all know if he hacked into it, how unsecure is your platform and what you're using in order to convey very delicate information that could cost the lives of men and women in the military. And by the way, there is coverage of the people that were killed. There were children who were killed in that Yemen attack, and we just we're all locked into the who leaked it and the guy from the Atlantic and it's not that big of a deal. Oh my God. We are in very strange territory. But at any rate, at first they said he was terrible, and that was the response, and then that he hacked it, or that nothing secure was shared. But it's okay for us to use this. Like every time they change their story, how malleable are you that you just accept whatever they feed you and you say more, please? I can't. I can't with it. I probably should thank my sponsor. Hi, sponsors. Thank you for giving me a moment to yell for a good 12 minutes straight. By the way, so I was watching the maggots just cheering about the stock market, 1,400 points up, 1,200 points up. And it was funny because some of them were cataloging when it was going down. And then by 1 o'clock, when it was announced that indeed Donald Trump had extended he increased the tariffs to China. I believe it's now 104%. And apparently some of the rally this morning, some of that clawing some of that territory back, was because there were rumors out of the White House that they were negotiating with some of these countries to, sort of come to an agreement on the tariffs. And I think that they're leaking these things in order to continue. And again, the difference between me and maggots, right, is that when they get new information, that's their new information. I have no problem going, I was mistaken about that. Like yesterday, I was talking about conception, Lady B, right, about life begins before conception. And that was a law from Arizona. And I didn't get a chance to go home and track it down. But I remember this because I did a joke about it when the governor of Arizona had said that life begins two weeks before conception. And I was clumsily handling that. And I have no problem saying that, yes, life doesn't begin. I was mimicking or sort of copying what she had said years ago, because that's kind of been part of my even deeper conviction that we should not have these draconian constrictions and restrictions on abortion. But yes, I was mistaken when I say that I don't believe life starts before conception. I don't believe life starts at conception, because if we're talking about when life begins, then we're talking about IVF embryos are also life and have personhood and all these things. At any rate, I have no problem saying I'm wrong. I'm used to it. I don't simmer in it and sort of double down on it. I just go, okay, I've got new information. I shall adjust accordingly. Thank you to our sponsors, Source Solar. Go to source.solar and find out about the great work that they do and make an appointment. See if it's time to put solar panels on your home or business and join the over 100,000 happy customers in the Chicagoland area. April 15th, we'll be at the Madison Tap Room with Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to minocquabrewingcompany.com and maybe order some Lady Justice, because if you do that today after reading my piece I wrote for them, it's on Substack and also their newsletter, that supports the work that I do there. So thank you so much. Let's take a break here and we'll continue our conversation on 1150 KKNW, Seattle, Washington, Alternative Talk, and right here on WCPT 820 Chicago, Heartland Signal.
Amy Goodman reports on the news stories rarely covered by the corporate media. Democracy Now!
The UN's Humanitarian Affairs Office warned Palestinian children are at high risk of injury or death from unexploded ordnance left after more than 13 months of Israeli attacks. 8-year-old Mohammed Karmash, this is his mother.
No one was there to tell him that these are explosives that the Israelis throw.
Democracy Now! Weekday evenings at 10 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Attention all listeners, financial planners, CPAs, and divorce attorneys. If you're wondering why your loan officer hasn't returned your calls, it's probably because they're one of the over 165,000 loan officers who didn't renew their license over the past 24 months. If you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender who's still in business. While mortgage companies have been shutting down and loan officers are leaving the business over the past 2 years, Team Hochberg has been adding loan officers, is stronger than ever, and would love to earn your business. Let's review. Hundreds of mortgage companies have closed and over 165,000 loan officers exited the mortgage business, while Team Hochberg has expanded and is stronger than ever. If you'd like to work with experienced mortgage professionals who will appreciate your business, call Team Hochberg now, 855-563-2843, or visit 56david.com, 855-563-2843, or 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, MLS 112-4061.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you for joining us as we drive it home. I took a couple of deep breaths during the break. I'm still fired up. We have a great show ahead of us today. Let me do this backwards because I'm excited that we have such a variety of guests today. We have coming up in our last hour at 6:30. We're going to talk to Michael Patrick Thornton and Sid Blackwell. They're in a production at the Revival, which is a great theater here in Chicago. It's like an improv theater, but also this is sort of a blend of comedy and drama. And I'm excited to talk to Michael Patrick Thornton and Sid about that. Michael Patrick Thornton, one of the founders of the Gift Theater right here on the Northwest Side. And the production is called, let me make sure I have that. The production is called Obliteration, and it's opening at the Revival Theater tomorrow. And we're going to have a special code for folks to get a discount on their tickets. We want to pack the place for their previews this week. You can go to therevival.com/obliteration. Again, that's the-revival. Apologies. That's the-revival.com obliteration. And we'll talk to them in the second hour. But before that, we'll talk to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation Area, and talk all things Wisconsin, of course. And coming up at 5:30, we're going to talk to Wendell Robinson, who is the executive director of the Restore Justice Foundation. I think we'll have a lot to talk about today when it comes to our justice system. If you want to go, justice seems so crazy to say right now when we're talking about deporting U.S. citizens to El Salvador prisons. Like I feel like we're just selling people now. We're just, you need some more? You got a few more bunks? Oh, it's so gross. All right. Hey, how's it going, Jim? How are you doing today?
Pick a card, Patty. Any card at all.
Yeah.
Middle
of the deck, Jim.
Yeah. Let's start with Pamela Bondi. She's left running from the exits from the interview on the 60 Minutes. She couldn't get out of there fast enough. So that's a simple question. Do any of these people have a legal reason for being in prison? Have they done anything wrong? The 200 people, they couldn't think of one thing. I think of a few who had parking tickets.
Yeah.
So she ran out of that outfit. But that leads to this question. Let's say you're a European, Spanish, wherever you're French, or wherever you're at, and you've been saving a little bit of money, and you think about coming to Chicago.
Yep.
And are you going to think twice? Let's say, for instance, your pigmentation isn't exactly stone white, and you don't have a pompadour, whatever profile. Now, think about it. You got to carry all your papers with you. If you're stopped and you run a car, you don't know where you're going to end up.
Yep. I'll tell you, Jim, there's a bar in Canada, and they posted today. They go across the border to the United States to watch games, Bruins games or whatever, and they get a bunch of their locals together and they rent a bus and everything. It was scheduled for October. They've already canceled it. We basically, Jim, you remember like when there was a movie with Claire Danes where she and her friend are traveling and like one of them like flirts with a guy and ends up with like drugs in her bag and she ends up in a Thailand prison. I feel like we're going to be that country that people make movies about. Like, you know, just it was a weekend away to Chicago, but ICE mistook them for, you know, whatever. I feel like we are now going to be the bad guys. I mean, not that we weren't already. We've done some pretty horrible things, but
right.
Yeah.
But Chicago, what hurts me the most is I've got all my relatives buried around Chicago and some of them around Chicago that made their living in Chicago. And when they talk about 20% of tourism affecting Chicago, Chicago is a really great tourist area.
Yeah.
And think of the everything, the entertainment, the people depending on tourists, the hotels, the hotel tax.
Yeah, all of that.
Just a little bit knocked off of that. It will be. It felt terribly, and Canadians. I mean, or anybody. I don't care where you're from in Europe. You've got to think twice about coming to the United States. As far as your papers have to be, you better make sure all your paper. You better bring them with you when you go to a bar or out to dinner or whatever the case may be. You better have everything in order because you could be stopped. You know, you could be stopped and interrogated. But you started the show. There's so many. I mean, you could go on until you went mad. Anyway, Patty, thanks for being here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. Hey, John. Thanks for calling us. What's on your mind, my friend?
Oh, hi, Patty.
Hey.
I just wanted to say that just a couple of main points here. First of all, tariffs are taxes on the end user.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what?
Yep.
Our taxes just went up. The working people of America, the working class, the working poor, their taxes went up. And so that's what tariffs are. They raised their taxes, okay? That's one thing. The other thing is I always hear people dissing socialism, okay? Well, guess what? The Trump administration is pro-socialism because the biggest part of their budget is the Defense Department. That's a socialized everything.
And you just reminded me that Starlink got another $5-point-something billion contract with the defense system, right? That's freaking Musk. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. And think about it. Musk got his money. This is all about getting loans for no interest. They didn't go to private. They're not going to private banks. They're going to the federal government. But the thing is, going back to the socialism, I mean, I was in the Army. I'm proud of my service. I was a National Guardsman and an Army reservist. And but the fact is, the health care is government health care. The drugs are, prescription drugs are taken care of. If you're in regular military, full time, you have base housing, which is subsidized. So they love socialism because that's all that is. And but it really comes down to who owns these words. And my view is nobody owns them. These are just words. But like I said, this tariff thing, this is a tax on working people. That's the way I see it. And again, the biggest part of their budget, $1 trillion, is going to the military, a socialized entity.
Yep.
Okay. And so anyway, I just want to point that out.
John,
to
do you
listeners.
remember what Martin Luther King Jr. said? And I believe he was quoting somebody. What the wealthy want is capitalism for the poor and socialism for the wealthy.
Exactly. And one last thing. Mm-hmm. It's been a sin in this country to say tax the rich. Yes, tax the rich. What is so wrong about that? And I'll tell you where it stems from. The whole negative side, it comes down to when Marx made the faux pas of saying, the opiate religion is the opiate of the masses. And what happened was the Catholic Church saw these government or state institutions taking over where they were in power. And I'm Catholic, okay? But the Catholic Church ran the hospitals, they ran the orphanages, they were in power with the ruling elite of Europe during feudalism, and they don't want competition. So when states developed the notion of nationalism, of course, they use that against the godless, quote unquote, godless communists. Oh, we can't have that.
Yep.
We can't have people with basic health care. We'll take care of them. Really? So here's my thing about institutions, like charities and what have you. Now, I give to charities, and I know a lot of good Americans do. But the point is, so is this like you're taking away our social safety net so that you have to have these charities taking care of us? Well, I'm not going to give to charities anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give to charities. I do give to environmental charities, but otherwise, you take away our social safety net, I'm not financing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that was something I learned when I was in Springfield. I didn't know Republicans wanted to zero out support services for the elderly, for the disabled, for young children. And that's exactly what they want to do. Thank you so much, John. Absolutely. I appreciate hearing from you, my friend. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Let's take a break here. When we come back, we're gonna talk to our friend Wendell Robinson, who is joining us in studio in just a moment on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal 1150 KKNW, Seattle, Washington.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Partly cloudy tonight with a low temperature of 33 degrees and light southeast winds. Wednesday, a chance of rain with a high temperature around 42 and gusty southeast winds. Thursday, showers possible with a high temperature of 47 degrees. Friday, sunshine with a high temperature of 47. Saturday, we'll see sunshine with a high temperature of 52. Sunday, lots of sun with a high of 63 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 39.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
The Randy Rhodes Show.
Oh, congratulations to the Fox and Friends weekend morning host, who's now our Secretary of Defense. He's a veteran, everybody. I know, I'm a veteran too. I'm pretty sure I wasn't on any of Kamala's short lists for any cabinet position, but oh my God, these picks, it's almost like, well, there's a word for it. It's called patronage. Right here, right now on WCPT 820, weekdays 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time.
WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
Union Strong Chicago continues to lead the way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversity Beer, Wine and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
I don't like the bad words in this song. They're blasphemous. I can't sing along.
Well, here's a version just for you. Sing with me, just like Jesus would do. Gosh darn it! Oh, gosh darn Please vote, gosh darn it! Gosh darn it's the American thing to vote, gosh darn it! Gosh darn it! See that you vote, gosh darn it! Ah! Vote, gosh damn it! Vote, gosh damn it! Vote, damn it! Vote, damn it!
But her emails. You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thought I'd play a little bit of Steve Goodie songs since we'll be doing a virtual comedy show this evening at 9 o'clock. You can go to virtualcomedyshow.com, and we'd love to have you join you. We usually do it every Monday, but tonight we're doing it because I think one of the guys is traveling. Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. We've got a new friend in the studio. I want to introduce everyone to Wendell Robinson, who's the executive director of the Restored Justice Foundation. Welcome to the studio, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Patty.
You have a beautiful voice. Hi. How you doing? So I know that you have an incredible story to tell us. And first, I want to find out, where did you grow up, my friend?
I am a West Sider, Patty. I am Lawndale. Grew up, born and raised Lawndale community.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Farragut.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Farragut. Went to a couple different high schools. Started getting in trouble early on, and I went to a couple different high schools.
Gotcha. So you work for. Tell us a little bit about where this organization comes from that you've created.
I didn't create the organization, but my predecessor, Joby Cates, is the founder of Restore Justice, and I think in a nutshell, Joby has a rich history. She came from an organization, Human Rights Watch, and she's seen just atrocities around the world. And she's seen something that was going on in this state and decided to do something about it. And she's seen how our carceral system was treating children. Like, we are probably one of the few places in the world that treat our children in a certain way. Like, to sentence our children to die in prison. Like, that is like common practice here. Not only just in Illinois, but around this country. So she's seen that, and she was like, I want to do something about that.
And we're sort of immune to that. We figure, well, there's detention centers or there's youth center, but we don't realize that there's also we're sort of funneling kids in and keeping them there.
We are, and I am someone who's system impacted. At 17, I was charged, I was convicted, I was sentenced, and I was sentenced to life and 35 years in prison.
Oh my God! So,
in the organization inception, she said that she wanted to abolish juvenile life without parole, right? And 10 years ago, we turned in 10 this year, and
happy birthday!
Thank you, thank you. And she decided to bring founding board members and founding members of Restore Justice to the prisons to visit the people that they were advocating for, and that's where my connection came in. I was in Menard Correctional Center, and Joby and founding members of Restore Justice came out and they visited us, and that was like one of the more it was so moving, right, to visit, to have someone to come 6 hours away from Chicago to visit you, right, and then just for them to care about what it was that I was going through as a person that was incarcerated as a child. And then now I had this extreme sentence, and these were people that was like, like, we feel like this is wrong and we want to do something about it. And thus, Restore Justice was founded to abolish juvenile life without parole. And that's something that we were able to accomplish. We was the 26th state to do that 2 years ago.
What's the youngest someone that a child has been convicted and sentenced to life?
The youngest that I know?
Yeah, that we know of in Illinois, I guess.
I know. I had friends, Patty, while I was incarcerated that was sentenced to life as early as 13 and 14 years old.
I mean, 17's horrible. This is all horrible.
It is.
And is it intended? I mean, I'm guessing they argue in court that this is an unfixable human being, or this human being needs to be discarded, essentially.
That is. And then when you think about the way that our sentencing schemes are set up, right? So you have what you call, when people are children, they have this process that they go through called an adult transfer, right? So a judge can, the state can ask, is this person fit to stand trial as an adult? So you can be like 13 years old, 14 years old, and be charged as an adult. And then the way that the sentencing schemes are designed, right? If you are charged with certain crimes, say if you are charged and convicted of multiple homicides, right? The way that the sentence scheme were set up, it's only one sentence that a person can receive, and that's life without parole. You're not eligible to get the death penalty at that time because you're not 18. That's one of the criteria to be able to receive the death penalty,
which we don't have in Illinois anymore.
We don't have in Illinois
currently.
No more.
Yeah.
But when I went through the system,
we did
have that.
Okay, so prior to George Ryan, so that would have been the 90s?
Early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was incarcerated in 1992 at 17 years old.
We're very close. How can we be so close in age and you look so good? What a weird thing to say right now. I'm just saying.
It's okay.
Because you've been through it. You've been through it.
I have been through a few things, and I can't say that it was, a walk in the park. But at the same time, I've had grace. I've had, people that, cared about me, people that were praying for me through the entire thing that I went through. And I think that's how I'm able to, sit here and be an advocate and be willing to just, share my story. Yeah.
How do you manage that? Because I met somebody, a friend of mine who passed away a few years ago, Laura Caldwell, worked with the Life After Innocence, which was wrongfully convicted folks who now are, trying to find their lives. And I spoke to somebody who had been in for 35 years wrongfully. And I think a lot of people listening can't even imagine like how, so it's the grace, it's the support, it's knowing that, and knowing that you're right that this is wrong. You know what I mean? There has to be an element of that to sustain you too.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like, certain things, we don't know how we built until we have to go through some things, right? Because a lot of people say like, I don't know how you did. I was incarcerated for 25 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, Patty. And people be like, I don't know how you did that. And I'm like, I don't know how I couldn't have done it, right?
We have no choice. Once you're in it, you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
I mean, you do, but it's not. It's to get through it.
It is. It is. And then even like with me too, right? I have to uplift in this moment, like the supporting cast that I had. Like I didn't have like a vast supporting cast, but the people that were there, they didn't take time off. My mom, my grandma, stepdad, people like those people didn't take not one day off. If I did 25 years, they did 25 years with me, right? So I was like, I was really blessed to have people to support me through that whole ordeal. And not just through that, but even in my transition since I've been home now just over 7 years. So it's like I had a supporting cast. Like if I didn't make it, I didn't want to make it, right? Seriously.
You have to make it for them since they're holding out for you as well.
They are. And like I say, they were supportive of me during a time where it was like, we gonna do whatever it is that we need to do in order to make sure that you okay while you there. Like, so just, stay focused and, stay out of trouble while you there.
And with this mission, with working with the Restore Justice Foundation, for folks who want to understand, because when you talk to legislators about the mission of fairness, humanity, and compassion throughout the Illinois criminal legal system, how do they, because this doesn't seem like right now, especially now, I'm just trying to figure out how we cut through the noise for folks because we see this nationally. I don't know if you heard today during the press conference at the White House, now the president is looking into whether or not it would be legal to deport U.S. citizens to this facility in El Salvador. And we've heard some folks say, if you commit a crime, you don't deserve due process. Like, we're moving in a much more, like, they ran on law and order without any concern for, like, communities, for how this happens and how as you mentioned, our judicial system, our criminal system, our penal system in Illinois funnels kids for lifetime sentences into the system. I mean, like, this is a gargantuan effort to convince people that they need to be invested in this, not just because someone that is imaginary or they don't know about or have no concern over. This can happen to anybody.
Yeah. And I feel like, one of my challenges as someone who's system impacted, right, is to allow people to see who I am and see the community that I'm a part of, right? Because I think oftentimes people have a preconceived notion as to what long-term incarceration looks like, right, without even seeing what long-term incarceration look like, right? So now I think part of my task in the community that I'm a part of is to kind of like show the world what long-term incarceration can look like, right? Yes, we can come home and run organizations. Yes, we can come home and make significant impact to, spaces that can't even be quantified. If it's like the things that we do with our families, the things that we may do in our community, being involved in, some of us in our spiritual journeys, right? These are all different things that we are making significant impact in, right? And I feel like, part of my job is just to allow the world to see what long-term incarceration can look like. With the right support, the sky will not fall. Like, it will not fall, Patty.
I know. Believe me, I agree completely. I feel like a lot of us shout into the wind when it comes to talking about what people believe, basically locking people up and throwing away the key. And we have a for-profit criminal system here with the prisons. I mean, I remember there was a point where one of the governors signed an agreement with the private prison companies to make sure that the 90% of beds were filled. Well, so what are we doing here?
Yeah, and even when you look at it from that aspect, right? Like prisons are big business, right? But at the same time, it's a level of things that are definitely going on in these communities, right? And they just don't, like, people just don't wake up, one day and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like, we have to be mindful of just the trauma that has been inflicted on a lot of these communities, right? And these are some of the in our carceral system is like in alignment with some of the things that goes on in some of these communities. And even when you see, like, if it's like myself, I grew up in Lawndale, and there's so many people that that grew up in poverty, right? But at the same time, we kind of like was drawn to what it was that we seen in those communities, right? And then now, as men and women that are that have grown up and grew out of that element, is like, now how do we roll our sleeves up and be involved in healing?
Yeah.
And that's the only way. Like, this hoodie that I have on now is a really good friend of mine's, right? King Musa, right? And
the camera right there. And that's great. Healing is crime prevention.
There it is.
Yeah.
Like, and it's and that's something that he advocates for. It's something that that people that a lot of people in our community believe in, and I embrace it. Like, we have to be healed before we able to do anything. And like now, if it's coming out, sharing my story, talking about the work that we do at Restore Justice, and just advocating in a totally different way, right? Where I'm able to, lead an organization, a statewide policy organization, after being incarcerated for 25 years. And we making like some significant contributions. Not only are we making significant contributions, but I have a team that is phenomenal. Like, I reside in DeKalb, right? So most days I'm commuting, round trip commute for me is 3.5 to 4 hours, right?
Yeah, depending on traffic, sure.
And I come in, and it's not burdensome. It's like I come in and I'm doing work with people that I care about, people that care about me, and we having an impact. Like, I love the work that I do. I know so many people that I grew up with. Like, I was incarcerated from the time from 17 until I was 42 years old. So I just was able to celebrate my 50th birthday in February. So I spent much more time.
Happy belated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I spent much more time
incarcerated
than I've been home. So now it's just about having that impact, enjoying what it is that we're doing, changing narratives, and just like I said, and just being that example of what long-term incarceration can look like.
We are talking to Wendell Robinson, Executive Director of the Restore Justice Foundation. You can go to restorejusticeillinois.org. Again, the website is restorejusticeillinois.org. We're going to continue our conversation when we come back. So check out the website and support the work that they're doing and learn more. I think that's the first step, is to be informed. Listen is first, being informed, taking action. These are the things. More when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 Seattle, Washington.
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Have you heard the term beige mom before? I had not, but apparently it's been around a couple years. It's used to describe moms who decorate their houses and their children's rooms in beige tones, and they also purchase colorless toys and clothing. And for some reason, the internet masses are outraged by this. Again, I don't necessarily get it, but there is no way in which this is going to harm a kid, according to a psychologist we spoke to, because the kid does see all kinds of colors outside organically. Other experts we talked to said colors don't matter as long as there are variety and diversity in other areas of the kid's life. And don't forget, babies can't even really fully see color for a few months after they are born. Instead, they are drawn to things with high contrast, so black and white. Now, once your kid is old enough, believe me, they're going to let you know what colors they do like. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Springfest at Lowe's means can't miss savings for your home and lawn. Right now, buy 3 bags, get 3 free on Miracle Grow 3/4 cubic foot all-purpose garden soil. Plus, buy 2, get 1 free on select exterior paint and stain via mail-in rebate. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/16, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. While supplies last, selection varies by location. See rebate form for complete list of eligible products. Offer excludes clearance and mist tints and can't be combined with any other offer, promotion, discount, or coupon.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our conversation with Wendell Robinson, Executive Director of the Restore Justice Foundation. I want to find out more because one of the things that we covered was this idea that in Illinois, young people could be prosecuted, found guilty, and then sentenced to life without parole even at the youngest age of 13 years old. So what work are you doing right now? What are some of the things that, first of all, how can we support the work that you're doing, and what are you up to?
So first and foremost, you can support us if you go to restorejustice.org. You can see exactly what it is that we're doing, things that we have done. But I think one of the more important things I feel like now is retroactivity. Like retroactivity is something that is near and dear to me because it's like I really understand, the people that some of the legislation that we pass, that the people that it affect, right? And I think like when we can sit and talk about an issue today, and you and I can say like, Patty, this is wrong, right. Definitively. We can take a hard stance on that. So if it's wrong today, it's wrong tomorrow, right? And
it was wrong yesterday.
It's wrong yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? Because like one of the analogies that we like to use is like when you have a recall on any product, right? It doesn't just move forward from that point on, right? The recall exists for whoever bought that product, right? But we haven't taken the same approach, to our criminal legal system.
In the sense that we're not so the legislation was passed. We
are working on legislation now that will.
I mean, as far as the not for life without parole, has that been passed or no?
Yeah. So in 2023, we became the 26th state to abolish juvenile life without parole.
Oh, I can't believe that existed. Right.
So people 20 and younger cannot receive, a mandatory life sentence without parole in this state.
But the people who have mandatory parole without parole, who were younger before the legislation was passed, are not being covered by that legislation.
It is not.
So they're still in jail.
They are, and these are some of the opportunities that we are advocating for now.
Yeah.
And being even with the legislation that we are advocating now, we have a lobby day tomorrow that we taking a group of people to Springfield to advocate for some of this legislation, right? But even understanding in this moment, right, where you have people that has been incarcerated and may not. And may get an opportunity, right? And it's just an opportunity for review. It's not like a blanket, like, open all the doors and let everyone out.
Case
it's an
by
opportunity,
case.
right? It's an opportunity for people to show who they've become. And if you've done your work, if you've invested in yourself in our carceral system, for however amount of years you've been there, these are the people that we are advocating for. And I think, that's only fair. Like if a person went in our system, Patty, at 16 or 17 years old, and they've spent 25 or 30 years, and for the better part of that time, they grew out of, whatever it was that they was into, and then they are putting themselves in position, to be better individuals, right? And these are the same people that we want to embrace coming home to be leaders in this social justice movement, right? So it's people that are ready, like literally ready, that the things that I'm doing now, I know people that's going to do it 10 times better than what it is that I'm doing, right? And I'm just happy to just be here and be a trailblazer for it, right? But at the same time, like, give people give folks an opportunity, show who they are, because we can look at, like, we have so many ways of seeing who a person seeing who a person who they become. If it's like you have a disciplinary jacket, it's so many ways that, people are monitored in our carceral system. Yep. And then even what it is that a person has invested in. If they've invested in, if they've educated themselves, they took all of the classes, all of the different classes, anything that was positive in the institution, if it's correspondence courses, whatever it is, right? You have people with tons of certificates and, degrees. And these are the same people that don't get an opportunity just for review. So these are the people that we are advocating for.
I can't believe that they. By the way, I just realized I offered you water and forgot to get it for you. But I will make sure that you leave with a cup of water.
It's fine.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
I just realized it because I was like running back here. I feel very bad about that, and I know it's very dry in here. Yeah. I just can't believe that we have passed legislation that says that we should not permanently dispose of somebody essentially in the penal system, and we didn't do it retroactively. I mean, so what legislators are? I mean, obviously we should be calling our legislators too and say, is there a bill that has been crafted and is being carried by anyway or sponsored?
So we have a retroactivity bill. It's 3330 HB 3332, I believe it is. Okay.
And you're going down to Springfield tomorrow. For folks who don't know, there are several days where organizations go down to Springfield to rally, to show up in numbers, and to talk to their legislators, that might not be from your own community. And there's often speeches. There's a lot of informational moments where people can connect with other folks who might be from other parts of the state and come together to talk about these issues. And again, the website that we've been talking to Wendell Robinson about is, hold on one second, it's Restore Justice.
Yeah, restorejustice.org.
And you can find out more about how to support the work that they're doing. Hey, if you want to drive down to Springfield and join their mission to raise awareness for this, I think that's a good idea too.
It is, and
go to I love Springfield, by the way.
And there's other ways, that people can be involved. Typically, during session on Friday, we have advocacy team, right? And they meet every Friday for a half hour, and they just be brought up to speed of, what our legislative agenda look like. And then if it's any other legislation that we support in terms of just criminal legal reform, right? We bring people up to speed. And then sometimes we may call to action if it's having folks call their legislator or, support, certain legislation. But these are some of the ways that you can be a part of what it is that we're doing. We do trainings quarterly, on the process, and we found that is so empowering where folks are able to just understand the process, right? Because it's one thing, to understand, like, okay, this is a bill, right? And then, but all the different channels that a bill has to go through before it becomes a law, right?
Right.
And we found that to be so empowering. Then not only does that be empowering, but we're able to just lend our level of expertise as to some of our best practices, what it is that we've learned, in doing this advocacy space. If it's building relationships with legislators, just some of our methods. And then, like I said, at the end of the day, like, we enjoy the work that we do. Like, we pride ourselves on bringing good energy to whatever space that we come in. That's one of the things about, the team that I'm a part of. We want to bring good energy. We want to, like, educate folks about the process. And we enjoy doing it, Patty. Like, we enjoy it. Maybe one day you come to our office and
I could do that. I would love to.
Yeah, you come to our office and see how it is. Just the energy that Restore Justice has.
Well, and there are folks who want to learn more. In addition to the website for RestoreJusticeIllinois.org, you can also check out. Jeremy Gorner wrote a piece yesterday in the Chicago Tribune, right, on this bill. There's if you Google it, and I just Googled reactivity. What was it? It was
retroactivity.
Retroactivity. So I can't.
Retrorecence.
You're getting me all tongue tied.
Okay. Right.
Retroactivity, but it came up even with my misspelling of other things.
Yeah.
No Parole Illinois, or go to restorejustice.org is the first thing that you should do to visit and learn more. And yesterday, the Chicago Tribune, Jeremy Gorner had a piece in here about the bill that's being worked on, so that people can be more informed. And folks, please call your legislators. I mean, that's the thing too, is if they've got to have skin in this game too.
Yeah. And it's just that was a piece of legislation, like I said, is so near and dear to me. I testified in front of committee for this piece of legislation, right?
Good.
I was able to just kind of like go and just explain, why it's important to me, what it means to me, how many people that I know that this can affect. And not only that, I think I was able to just, really illustrate what our system impacted community is doing. Like, it's some system impacted folks out here that's like, that's doing some amazing work, right? And they love what it is that they're doing. Some people has, considered themselves part of the problem for so long, but now it's like these are the same people that are that want to come up with solutions. These are some of the same people that want to roll their sleeves up and just put some skin in the game.
Let's help them get across the finish line, folks. RestoreJustice.org. Correct. And we're going to talk to you again. I look forward to having you back in studio. Be safe, and I'm going to get you some water on the way out, I promise. We'll come back in just a moment on WCPT 820 and KKNW 1150.
Thanks to our loyal WCPT listeners, the WCPT 20th anniversary broadcast is officially sold out. But you can still enjoy the broadcast by listening to WCPT Radio on Saturday, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hal Sparks will kick things off at 11 a.m., then hand it off to WCPT hosts Richard Chu, Joan Esposito, Patti Vasquez, and Scott Duff at 1 o'clock. Surprise guests from WCPT's 20-year history will also join us. Scroll through 20 years of WCPT radio with legendary interviews, shows, and pictures on the WCPT 820 website. WCPT's live broadcast is sponsored by Max and Benny's Restaurant in Northbrook, Fazio Insurance, Smart 265, Kane County Dems, Southland Friends of Labor, Democratic Party of McHenry County, and McHenry County Democratic Women. It's the WCPT 20th anniversary live broadcast Saturday, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Only on WCPT 820, Chicago's only progressive talk radio station for 20 years.
Steel, walk behind, zero turn, and stand-on mowers are built to get the job done. Shop online or at your local Steel dealer. Steel, let's go mow.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. The Internal Revenue Service has agreed to share immigrants' tax data with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Marcela Sanchez has details.
The agreement allows ICE to submit names and addresses of immigrants inside the U.S. illegally to the IRS for cross-verification. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons told reporters the agreement will help ICE find people who are using someone else's identity to collect benefits.
We wouldn't be targeting individuals that have work authorization, as you said, because if you have a work authorization, then you have some type of status in the United States.
Working with the Treasury and other departments is strictly for major criminal cases, Lyons says. The Treasury argues the agreement will help carry out Trump's border agenda. Advocates say the data sharing violates long-standing privacy laws. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
An immigration judge in Louisiana says she'll terminate the case against Mahmoud Khalil if the government does not provide evidence this week justifying their attempted deportation of the student activist. Sagar Magani reports the White House is looking at President Trump's tariffs partly as bargaining chips.
The president said the tariffs kicking in tomorrow can be permanent, but his team's also negotiating with other countries.
We're doing very well in making, I call them tailored deals, not off the rack. These are tailored, highly tailored deals.
On Capitol Hill,
he deserves the opportunity to see what kind of deals he can get.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune says the president needs the space to make it happen. Top Democrat Chuck Schumer says Americans don't have time for that.
They're anxious, they're worried.
And traders are uncertain, sending markets down again after huge gains earlier in the day. Sagar Magani, Washington.
More wild swings on Wall Street. Sesutel has numbers.
The S&P 500 dropped 1.6% after wiping out an early gain of more than 4%. The index is now down about 19%, below the record it set in February. The Dow dropped 320 points. The Nasdaq Composite lost 2.1%.
This is AP News. On PBS's Finding Your Roots, Henry Louis Gates Jr. goes from host to guest.
Let's go, baby.
For 11 seasons, Henry Louis Gates Jr. has sat across from his guests on the popular PBS series Finding Your Roots and led them through secrets in their family tree. On Tuesday, it's his turn. Here's your book of life.
Oh, my goodness. This is, it's deeply emotional.
The host learned something revealing about his great-great-grandmother. Other episodes of the new season include Sharon Stone, Chef Jose Andres, and Kristen Bell.
Wrong side of history, friend.
In the last episode, Lawrence Fishburne learns the identity of his biological father.
It's better than any movie script or television play I've ever read.
Over the years, the show has delivered fascinating results. Julie Walker, New York.
And I'm Ben Thomas, AP News. Thanks for listening.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Partly cloudy tonight with a low temperature of 33 degrees and light southeast winds. Wednesday, a chance of rain with a high temperature around 42 and gusty southeast winds. Thursday, showers possible with a high temperature of 47 degrees. Friday, sunshine with a high temperature of 47. Saturday, we'll see sunshine with a high temperature of 52. Sunday, lots of sun with a high of 63 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 39.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
For the longest time, it was hard for me to even get out of the house, much less do a backside 180. It took me a bit to understand what was going on, but eventually I learned I had anxiety. Now I'm getting help for it and feeling so much better. Sure, some days are better than others, but the whole thing about getting out of the house, that's not really an issue anymore.
Mental health care is working to see what it can do for you at mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today as we drive it home. We want to thank our sponsors, Source Solar, for making these conversations possible. Go to source.solar and set up an appointment. Maybe it's time for you to get solar panels on your house or business and join over 100,000 happy customers in the Chicagoland area. We will be broadcasting on April 15th from the Madison Tap Room from Monaco Brewing Company. Come join us. You've got time now to plan. See how I usually am terrible at giving you guys a heads up about where I'll be? I'm going to be in Madison doing a live broadcast. And go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com. Sign up for their newsletter and check out my latest piece about, I believe I wrote a little bit about what we're going to talk about next with our friend Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation Area, joining us on WCPT 820, KTNF AM 950, and 1150 KKNW. Dan, I love that you've written a piece that we can go down the list. Dan Shafer, I don't ask people how they're doing anymore. I ask if they're hydrating. Are you hydrating, my friend?
No, I'm caffeinating. I'm not hydrating. It's a busy time here in Wisconsin.
It's a busy time. I'm so happy. I've really enjoyed calling Elon Musk a $1 billion cheese turd. That's really been making me happy. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. I'm going to steal that one.
Please. I wish I'd given you the heads up last week. As soon as I saw him with the cheddar wedge on his head, I called him a cheese turd, and I put it in a piece that I wrote last week. Yeah.
That's terrific.
It has to be the loudest wah wah. It's just so are you still happy?
Yeah, I am still kind of, it's a challenging time nationally, but
yes.
For Wisconsin, I'm pretty happy with how things went last week. It not just a victory, but a decisive 10-point victory, which in Wisconsin, a 10-point victory, that's a landslide. That's about as wide of a margin as we get here. So not just defeating Elon Musk and his $25+ million that he poured into the race to try to win this thing for right-wing candidate Brad Schimmel. Not only did we defeat that, but I think this really sends a message nationally, don't you?
I do. And this brings me back to when we first started talking and I started learning more about the dynamics of Wisconsin politics and then becoming a fib for Wisconsin and all those ththings. But I think just briefly, you mentioned that a 10-point margin is unheard of in Wisconsin. And you've often talked about that, about how, Wisconsinites will vote split ticket. They're kind of the sort of threshold of what they look for in a candidate. Like they seem to be more mindful and not just sort of like all R or all D. I mean, it's leaned R and Johnson keeps getting in there, but you guys are a little persnickety is what I'm saying. So tell folks a little bit if you could.
That's for sure. That is for sure. Yeah. I mean, we have, it is, I think Wisconsin has a real independent streak in a lot of ways. You can't necessarily, it's not just like a clean red-blue divide. It is very much a purple state. You have a number of these places around the state that, can swing from election to election. We had about a dozen, I think, counties that went for Donald Trump last fall that went for Susan Crawford this spring. A couple of them close by you guys in Chicago. I think maybe some fibs for Wisconsin effect here because both Racine and Kenosha counties flipped for Susan Crawford.
Just saying,
which I thought was a pretty interesting development. Kenosha is a little bit bluer, but Racine hasn't gone for like a Democratic aligned candidate since 2018. This is Donald Trump won there twice. Ron Johnson won there. Tony Evers lost there. Like that's been a county that has been pretty red for the last few elections, and Susan Crawford won there. She won really big in Milwaukee County, one of the best results that like a Democratic aligned candidate has posted there in quite some time. And then right in the Fox Valley and Green Bay, where Elon had his just comically ridiculous rally giving out the $1 million checks in the totally legal, definitely not bribery giveaway scheme that he had concocted. That was Brown County is the home to Green Bay. And that's a county that Donald Trump barely won last year, but there was like an 11-point swing from last fall to this year in that county where Elon held his rally. So I really do think that played a major role, and the Elon backlash really swung a lot of independent voters to Susan Crawford in this race. And so I think, I thought going into it that it was going to be close. And we had the call from the AP. We were doing a live broadcast on Civic Media. We had the call before 9:30 p.m., which is in Wisconsin. Like we said, we have these really close elections. A 9:30 call on a statewide race in Wisconsin is about as early as it gets.
I just got a listener. Yeah, that was wild. I was watching it I think I was watching an episode of Reacher because I was so stressed. I didn't want to watch the live coverage like on MSNBC or anything like that. So I like this show Reacher. I don't know if you're familiar, on Amazon Prime, but it's quite.
I've heard good things. I haven't watched it yet. I've heard good things.
It's quite enjoyable. At any rate, so I was surprised that it was called so early. By the way, we were talking about Wisconsinites voting split ticket, not necessarily reliably one or the other. But someone said, I don't know, if you're ticket splitting these days, you might be brainwashed. Voted for Hitler, but felt cute and voted for that nice lady to be a judge too. And I get that. I get that. I get that. It's Wisconsin's a little complicated. Because there are, as you mentioned, just huge swaths of very conservative areas, very rural areas, areas that identify with whatever, and it's also a very gerrymandered state it plays a big part in this too. But how much are you hearing now? I mean, last week, obviously, a testament to people being ticked off about Musk, whether it was the bribery or the, firing people. I mean, your Head Start office was in Chicago. Like they shut us down, and that serves 5 states. Yeah. And you have all kinds of programs that are ending in Wisconsin. You have veterans that are getting fired, can't get services, farmers who are losing money. So I think it's a lot happening in Wisconsin that's affecting these kinds of decisions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's a manufacturing state, too. So I think these, that's one of our biggest manufacturing and agriculture, being two of our biggest industries in Wisconsin. And whether it's tariffs, whether it's just like the general chaos of the administration, whether it's the ridiculous DOJ firing indiscriminately, firing people indiscriminately, a lot of these things are going to fall really hard in Wisconsin. I actually saw a statistic from the New York Times in recent weeks here saying that no state in the country is going to be impacted by tariffs more than the state of Wisconsin, and that the vast majority of the jobs that are projected to be impacted are jobs in counties won by Trump.
Whoa.
So it's like 70% of the jobs that are going to be impacted, manufacturing jobs, agriculture jobs, what have you, are Trump voting counties. Obviously there's a big manufacturing base in Milwaukee and all that too. And kind of that corridor in between Chicago and Milwaukee as well. But I think there's, this is going to be really felt in a very real way for many Wisconsinites. And I think this is, I think there's a lot of concern right now, justifiably.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that it seems as though some of it has cut through the noise. And what was voter turnout like, by the way? I hadn't looked into those numbers.
Voter turnout was exceptional for a spring election in Wisconsin. It was way, I know we talked a lot 2 years ago when Janet Protasewicz won and flipped the court in the 2023 race. Turnout for that total numbers was about 1.85 million for total voter turnout in Wisconsin. This year it was about 500,000 more people voted this year than two years ago. So I think there was about 2.4 million people, which again is still is way down from a presidential year. But for a spring election in April, to have well over 2 million people turn out is pretty wild, and it felt more like a midterm than your typical kind of spring election race. It felt like it was it was. I think one of the statistics that I saw was that Susan Crawford got more votes in this race in 2025 in the spring election than Scott Walker got in 2018 when he lost the race for governor. So, I think that gives you an idea of how many people really showed up to vote in this election. And I think, kind of varies by county to county where people are going to show up. But, close to 2.5 million people voting in a spring election in April in Wisconsin is just a huge, huge number.
Now, there were two other elements of obviously there were a lot of board races across the state. We worked with a couple judges that we were helping in Racine. But tell us a little bit about how close this race was for school superintendents, because this wasn't people just going, okay, the Republicans have screwed me, I'm voting all Democrats. Tell us a little bit about the superintendent race, too.
Yeah, this was kind of like the undercard of the statewide races compared to the, ridiculous $100 million that had been spent on the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. But the Democratic incumbent, Jill Underly, she's faced some controversy over the past few years. And I think it had some people wondering if she was vulnerable to a challenge. This has not typically been an office that has been particularly close over the years. Tony Evers, who's now the governor, had this role previously, and he regularly won. He won, I think, 3 terms there. He won regularly with more than 60% of the vote. I think one time even close to 70%. So it has not been a very competitive office for quite some time. But this one was close to a 5-point margin. Brittany Kinzer, who was, kind of a charter school executive, and she was a lobbyist for some charter school organizations in and around Milwaukee. She got a ton of funding from the Republican Party and some of the typical Republican donors. She ran kind of as trying to position herself as a moderate, particularly on, kind of like the so-called school choice issue, which has some level of popularity among Democrats in Milwaukee, at least. She did not do Kinzer did, better than Brad Schimmel in Milwaukee County and some of the other counties in southeastern Wisconsin. She did not do particularly well rural areas where, and it's kind of like a opposite of what you see with some of the other trends, right? I think in rural areas, people are very, very reliant on their public schools, and they don't have the kind of school choice voucher thing creeping in quite as much as we see in and around Milwaukee. So I think, that was a huge factor there too. But it was, I think it does show, some vulnerabilities that Democrats have on education issues where I think, you don't want to be defending a status quo or an establishment that's not necessarily working for people.
Right.
And I think that has been a position that Democrats have gotten themselves into in a number of different races, and I think this is kind of the example of it in Wisconsin, where I think, defending the status quo isn't necessarily what people want. People want to see change. People want to see progress. And, hopefully now that Jill Underly has been reelected, which I think is a good thing, and she is a champion for public education in Wisconsin, and, that is very, very needed. But hopefully it is a little bit more of a, reform-minded type of public education approach, because I think, there's been a lot of controversy in Milwaukee public schools over the past few years, and her kind of oversight of that has been called into question. We want to see change. We want to see improvement. So I think, maybe it's a little bit of a wake-up call, too. Got to make some more progress on things.
Well, I love checking in with you and getting the lowdown on what's going on in Wisconsin. We appreciate all the work that you do. You can see the entire article, the 10 takeaways that Dan Shafer had from the election from last week, as well as a guest columnist. So we didn't even get a chance to get to, and I have to go though, Dan. I'm on a tighter schedule these days because I blame Seattle. We love you, Seattle. And thank you for being here, but I have to go.
I used to live in Seattle. Hello, Seattle.
There you go. It's your former neighbor, Dan Shafer. Go to the Recombobulation Area on Substack.
Shout out to West Seattle. That's right.
Talk to you next week, Dan. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you. You too. Let's take a break here and come back in just a moment on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF.
WCPT replay.
When I look at the GOP, at the Republican Party, I struggle for a way to not call it evil. This is a party that is now fully in the service of a fossil fuel industry that is actively destroying our planet. They are in the service of a for-profit health insurance industry that, according to the British journal The Lancet, is responsible for 65,000 Americans dying every year unnecessarily because insurance companies denied them preventative or any other form of care. The Republican Party is fully beholden to the American gun industry, which is responsible for psychologically scarring an entire generation of children so that this industry can continue to make profits. And the Republican Party is not only fine with that, they're enthusiastic about it. How do you not call that evil?
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Are you looking for more in this world? Are you ready for something bigger? Then we are looking for you. The big-hearted, the bold, the messy and the gutsy. The teachers, the growers, the builders. The skilled, the sharers, the change makers. We need you. We are the Peace Corps. In more than 60 countries, we go all in and all out. We are volunteers, partners, communities, working together, living together, bringing our experience, passion, and joy to building a better world together. From tackling climate change in Mexico to keeping kids healthy in Kenya, from sustainable farming in the Philippines to education in Kosovo. We learn more, give more, share freely, and serve boldly. Are you ready to tackle the tough stuff? To go the distance to make a difference? Then we have a place where you belong. Join us at peacecorps.gov.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning We always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
He's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
I feel bad. I know that we had a couple of listeners on hold and they realized I had guests on. So if you want to call, we have a few moments before we have another guest on the phone. We're going to have Sid Blackwell and Michael Patrick Thornton from the production of Obliteration, which is at the Revival this week in Chicago. And we've got, actually, I have a discount for you guys, and I should make sure that you know about that discount because they have premieres starting tonight. And let me get that discount code for you guys. There's a discount code, industry quote code of Punchline that knocks 25% off your ticket at checkout. They did this production last year at Steppenwolf, and now it's called Obliteration, and it will be premiering tomorrow at the Revival Theater. So it's the Revival. You can go to the revival.thundertix.com. That's Thundertix with an X. And it sounds like an amazing production. It's a fusion of stand-up and theater, telling the story of two comedians trying to make sense of a world that's falling apart. I don't know what that's like. It is really hard to go into a comedy club these days. And it's funny because I'm on social media and I see like this new crop of young comedians, and I just can't imagine like the churn and burn of material, because you need to elevate your profile by being online, and a lot of comics sort of sidestep putting their material online in a couple of different ways. One, they'll do a lot of crowd work, and I will tell you that is not why I got into stand-up comedy. And believe me, there are brilliant comedians. I mean, you think of Don Rickles as sort of being an insult comic, and there's a lot of comics who do crowd work that are phenomenal at it. Pat McGann, I would say, is one of the best in the industry. It's just not why I got into stand-up comedy. It's a different skill set. I tell stories. I have constructed jokes, and so do those comics. So does Pat, and so did Don Rickles. The thing is that was also in their in sort of their tool belt. And for me, I grew up watching, George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and I've worked with great comics like Louis Black, and just a ton of folks who have this style of comedy, of sharing their perspective, and it's not about what the audience can offer. And I always struggled with people who would just yell out, because you have to address it, right? So you have to get that skill, and I have it. My go-to is to walk into the audience, Lady B. I will come off the stage and walk up to the offending table, because for me, the idea that you think you are making the show better, what if everybody, what makes you special out of all the people that bought tickets, that hired babysitters, that paid for parking, that you now think that you should command the show? The club has already booked the comedians. This is what we do, and all of a sudden people want to just yell stuff out, and so I've never enjoyed. I got strong at it. I know people would get excited when it was time for me to go after somebody, and I do it kind of in a cheerfully aggressive way. I think that those of you who listen to the show regularly are not surprised by that, but it's sort of. I think I've told this story about being at the Tropicana in Atlantic City, which I loved working there because, there were a lot of tourists, there were some locals, it could be a little bit crazy, and there were always 3 headliners on the show, so we all did half an hour sets. And so I knew that, like, if I wasn't the right, I'm never going to be every single person's cup of tea, just like on the radio. This may not be your style, this isn't what appeals to you, and that's fine. I lashing out at somebody because I'm not exactly what you want has also never made sense to me. It's, in a comedy club, there are other comedians on the dial, there's other stations, there's an off button, but like lashing out and saying stupid things about me personally on a text screen or calling and spewing stupid stuff, I've never understood. And the same thing about yelling at a comic. That's you yelling at somebody is not going to change the quality or the content. It's just not going to happen. Some spontaneous magic trick isn't going to erupt. But this guy would not let up. They were being disruptive through my whole set. It was just one table. The rest of the crowd was having a good time. And I will say one of the things that's nice about being, I guess I would say seasoned instead of an older comic, but having done this for 30 years, is there's a patience you develop of now you have to make choices. And I have an editor. I have a stable of material that I can go to. If something's not working for a crowd, I kind of figure out where their sweet spot is. And sometimes it's also not your night. But on this night at the Tropicana, it was the rest of the crowd was having a great time. And I suspected it was... I just know sometimes, folks, that it is because I'm a woman. And I'm not saying that they just didn't like me because I'm a woman. No, I was at the Stardome in Birmingham, Alabama in 2004. And I walked out on stage and this guy in the front goes, we don't got to listen to this, bitch. And he turned around and had his back to me the entire show. So I'm not imagine. Sometimes they just tell you. So I suspected it was that. And I used to wear really cute cocktail dresses, like sort of almost like looking like 50s cocktail dresses. This is a really cute black and white one with a little bolero. It was really cute, little like black flats. And so I had the crowd. I knew I had the crowd on my side, so I felt comfortable enough. And I know I've told this story before, but it is my favorite story of hecklers. And so I was... I felt that 10 minutes into the set was a comfortable enough time where the audience liked me, and I needed to get this guy to shut up. So I walked over to the table and I said, "Hey, it seems like I got off the stage," which I love doing because it completely throws people off. And I walked over to the table and I go, "Hey, it sounds like you folks aren't having a good time." It was a wireless mic, so I could walk over, and he goes. This guy goes, "Go back on stage, little girl," and gave me the brush out, the gesture of scoot, just what do you call this, dust off kind of a thing, just skedaddle kind of a gesture. And I just stood there and I go, no. I go, "Look, there's another comic coming up after me. If you're not enjoying my set, just could you please be quiet so that I can finish my show and you can enjoy the next comedian." And he's like, and he's like, his whole table was laughing at him and being disruptive. And I go, "Look, how about if I buy you a drink?" And now the whole room boos because, first of all, I know. They're like, we were having a good time. Why does that guy get a drink? So I said, "Hey, bartender, could I have a vinegar and water for the effing douchebag over here?" And the room, it was so delicious. It's like one of those moments that is frozen in time for me forever, where I was just like, that was magic. I can't. I'll never. And someone wrote me a letter to send it to the green room saying it was the most eloquent handling of a heckler. And I used several words that were not what you would call eloquent. And I was very happy. So let's talk about Obliteration when we come back with Sid and Michael. They're in the production of Obliteration at the Revival. Again, you can go to the website to get a discount. We'll talk about that when we get them on the line. But you can go to the revival.thunderticks.com. Obliteration opens. Premieres tomorrow. So let's I think, or Thursday. Well, they'll tell us more in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 Seattle, Washington, and KTNF AM 950 in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Oops.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Partly cloudy tonight with a low temperature of 33 degrees and light southeast winds. Wednesday, a chance of rain with a high temperature around 42 and gusty southeast winds. Thursday, showers possible with a high temperature of 47 degrees. Friday, sunshine with a high temperature of 47. Saturday, we'll see sunshine with a high temperature of 52. Sunday, lots of sun with a high of 63 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 39.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
There are 1,000 ways to say it.
Nope. Knock it off. Shut it down. Dream on. No dice. Give it a rest. Not a chance.
Or just...
All text. You focus on the road.
As a passenger, you have the power to prevent an accident. There are 1,000 ways to stop a distracted driver. Choose one.
A message from CTIA.
Being blind doesn't always look how others may think.
Retinitis pigmentosa aimed to overwhelm my family.
It tried to cut me down.
I know where to find support and where I can be seen.
Innovative research, educational resources, supportive community. The Foundation Fighting Blindness is leading the charge in finding treatments and cures for blinding diseases. Learn more at fightingblindness.org. A public service message from the Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
So I was reminiscing about some of my moments on stage as a stand-up because this production of Obliteration is right up my alley. Joining me on the line are the performers, the stars of Obliteration. Sid Blackwell and Michael Patrick Thornton join me on the line. Hi, Michael. Hi, Sid. I don't ask folks how they're doing anymore. Are you both hydrating well? That's all I can ask folks.
Good question. Yes, currently.
How about you, Michael?
Does wine count?
Yes, I would say it's a beverage. It's your choice.
There's no problem. There's no problem with hydration.
Excellent. I'm excited to see this production. So Sid, I don't know that we've met. So it's a pleasure to meet you on the phone, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Where did you grow up, my friend?
I actually grew up in Texas, in Fort Worth, Texas, but I've been in Chicago for over 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
What brought I feel like this is my home.
Yeah, what brought you to Chicago?
Yeah. Theater. Yeah, specifically. The storefront theater scene here is pretty outstanding. So that's what's kept me here. So yeah.
That's fantastic. I love hearing that. And now you're both playing stand-up comics. Is that right, Michael?
That's correct.
And so Sid, what kind of research did you do did you go to like the open mics or like the Laugh Factory or just sort of like tapping into it differently? How did you go about this?
Yeah, great question. Because when our wonderful playwright Andrew Hinderaker approached us about writing this play, I was like, I don't know why you want me to do stand-up. But I did. I started doing a lot of research, but it was mainly during the pandemic. So I did a lot of online research and, watched like Taylor Tomlinson. I watched the old Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, et cetera, et cetera. There's, the list goes on. Anyway, I did a deep dive through, mainly like Netflix has, a good cachet of of stand-up. So, yeah.
It's so funny. I always flash to there was one of her Ellen's specials. I'm so sorry, it's so wrong, but I can't do the whole bit. But at any rate, I love the whimsy of Ellen, and she was a big influence for me. And so Michael, when you were coming to this, because this is also dark. I mean, is this kind of the tears of a clown? Are we going in, like, because people always say that and not that I don't have my dark things, but tell us a little bit about the story of these two comedians.
Well, it's about two comedians named Neil and Lee who find each other after Neil opens for Sarah Silverman. And in the play, we're actually not calling it a play. We're calling it a theatrical event. Because it's kind of like a love child between a theater piece and a stand-up comedy set. But we were able to get Sarah Silverman to record audio for us as well as best-selling that we have laced through the production. So that's super cool. But these two characters meet after Neil opens for Sarah, and they form a friendship that sort of ends up saving each other.
And I will say, I mean, I've known comics that have had relationships, so I look forward to seeing how you guys explore this. Michael, who were some of the comics? Did you look to other comics? I mean, because you've worked with comics in Chicago too.
I have, yeah. I mean, I went through Second City and I.O. and Annoyance, but I do not identify as a comic. I mean, Patty, I mean, just the work you do, Patty, of like going up and refining things over months and months to try to get 5 minutes right. So, but I am an improviser, and I mean, my favorite comedian is Norm Macdonald. He's like a god to me.
Sure.
And I just wanted to work with Sid very badly, and Andrew, our playwright, was noticing that up in Madison, Wisconsin, where he lives, the comedy clubs were full right after we were coming out of the pandemic, but the theaters were really struggling to fill up, and that's still the case, So hopefully we can
bridge that.
We can bridge that at the revival.
Yeah, I would say when we started opening up, I was doing, it was crazy. The energy from audiences doing stand up was nuts, and I would say it's still pretty solid. And to that, by the way, I got to see Norm Macdonald in 1990. I want to say I was still in college, so it was 1991. And I actually know sadly, I haven't mentioned this, but one of his opening comics just passed away over the weekend. But Diana Limo and Paul DiGilio were his opening acts, and it's so I'm looking forward to this. So tell me a little bit, Sid, about the this hour. It's an hour, right? This is an hour production.
It's actually a little under 2 hours. There's
I'm sorry.
Intermission. Mm-hmm. Oh no, that's
it does say 2 hours. I don't know how to read anymore, folks. Sorry.
You're good.
But
you're good. Yeah. Yeah.
I was looking at
it's kind of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah.
So it's a little bit. It's a little bit of a combination of both what happens on stage and then what happens off stage is what we're looking at, right?
Yeah, we each do several stand-up sets, and then there's scenes in between where we come back together and are working things out, and then as Mike says, near the end we kind of figured out how much we actually needed each other in our lives. So save each other.
Well, there's something about when I talk to folks about what it's like to be a stand-up comic is the highs are high and the lows are low, and the trick is to live in the middle. And there's nobody else that's going to get what that life is like. Is that the kind of thing that you guys explore, Sid?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, to your credit, that it's incredible. I didn't write any of this stuff, so there is that aspect of it, right? But that I am not privy to. But when the first time I did it for our theater's 10-minute play festival, and I got up and did a 10-minute set. And I remember walking on, starting my first line. I don't remember anything else. I walked off. I was drenched in sweat, and I don't get that way. I've been, on stage for many years, and that's not how. So that was a whole new experience for me. So I hear you. You do. You have highs and some real low lows, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, and I don't get into. I used to get into topical stuff, but the part of this description of the performance says that they're trying to make sense of a world that's falling apart. Michael, are you guys taking on current events or social issues as well?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, they're mentioned for sure, but the heartbeat of the story is really these two people, and both kind of wanting to be better versions of themselves, but just not willing to kind of take that next step, and they each kind of force each other to grow up and become better people and better comedians.
Oh my God, this sounds like something all comedians should probably watch, because we could all be better versions. I mean, it's true of anybody in any circumstance, though, wouldn't you say, Sid? We all kind of need that push or that motivation to be better versions. It's just that you happen to have to do it on stage. Yeah.
Yes, completely. And it's just a good, I think the experience of theater or a live event like this is going to hopefully engage you in a different way and make you think in a different way, right? Empathetically and et cetera.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Michael, when you reached out, you mentioned that you wanted to make sure people know about the space. Tell us a little bit about the Revival, because I had not heard too much about it yet.
So the Revival is a space that's been in Hyde Park for the last about 9 years. And they were located right at the nexus of where the Compass Players, which eventually became Second City, where they kind of started. So they have a historical footprint in Hyde Park. And then they just celebrated their year anniversary on Wabash, at Wabash and 9th in the South Loop. And it's run by a guy named John Stoops, and it's just a super cool, clean space. And, for the listeners who don't know, I use a wheelchair, and it's one of the most wheelchair-friendly spaces I've ever been in my life, let alone a theater. So it's just really cool, sleek, feels almost a little bit like a microbrewery vibe in some ways. And I just respect anybody who kind of puts their money where their mouth is and tries to make their little corner of the world a better place. So we were looking at all the different places in Chicago to do it, and we zeroed in on the Revival, and a very important person in both my life and Sid's life, Sheldon Patinkin. He used to teach a block away at Columbia, so it feels very kismet being back in the South Loop doing this this fusion of stand-up and theater, which I think Sheldon would have loved.
I love that. Again, we're talking to Michael Patrick Thornton and Sid Blackwell. Their performance of Obliteration runs from Thursday, April 10th through Sunday, May 4th. And I want to make sure that people know that the revival is at 906 South Wabash Avenue. That's right here in Chicago. And it's the revival.thundertix.com. Michael, do we have is the discount for my listeners? I should have asked you before we got on the air because I don't know if I can. That's for my friends. How do you want me to share more information?
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah, you're talking about the Punchline discount.
Yes. I want.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, go on. It's cool. That's cool. No worries.
All right.
Just go online, get yourself a ticket, and then enter the code word Punchline, and it knocks, I believe, 20 or 25% off. But of course, we would love to do that for you. Are you kidding me?
All right. I realized I hadn't cleared that with you. That should have been part of my conversation back and forth. Hey, by the way,
thanks a lot, Patty.
I know. So the code is Punchline for a discount off tickets. We want to pack this house for their opening week and make sure that we've got the energy. Because I will say this, I don't know how much. Now, Sid, did you do any stand up outside of rehearsals and decide to try it out? Or because I will tell you, and this is, I don't even know I have to mention it as a stand up. As performers, you guys know the more energy you have from a hot audience, the better the performances can be, right, Sid?
Totally. So interesting because we did a run last night actually, and my first set is a little, who knows, it's iffy, and it was just interesting because we have our designers in there who've seen it so many times, so you're like, oh, okay, but.
So do you mean when you say it's iffy?
You need that energy.
Yeah. When you say it's iffy, is it written that way, or you meant it felt iffy?
Yeah, no, it's written.
Yeah.
You're not sure which way it's gonna go. I'll say that.
I was gonna say that's gotta be so hard because it's not yours, and that's gotta. I have to see this because I'm sweating just thinking about it because you have to do material that you're not sure if it's not written to necessarily get a laugh. Am I right about that, Michael? Because that's correct. That's a mind twister for me. It makes me hurt.
Well, it's not. I mean, we wouldn't call it a bomb, but it's not. It is written intentionally for it not to be, an absolute mic drop. And we're all in the same boat. I'm not a comedian. Says I'm a comedian. Andrew, isn't a comedy writer per se. And he met with Neil Brennan about this piece.
Wow.
And Andrew was interviewing a lot of comedians, and Andrew shared his, trepidation about, writing a piece about comics and the world of stand-up. And Brennan told him, well, you're a playwright, right? Like, you write monologues? And Andrew's like, yeah, of course. He goes, okay, so what's the difference? And Andrew talks about Phoebe Waller-Bridge when, she was working on Fleabag and just didn't feel like she wanted to do, comedy and finally someone's like, well, you can just have a stool and you can sit down. And she's like, oh, okay, that doesn't feel like stand-up comedy. So it's just funny what you need sometimes to get you to the microphone and just start doing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh, that's true. That's fantastic. Again, I wish you both the best. I'm going to see this. I'm hoping to get out this week. And the production runs through May 4th, folks. And so opening night are we inviting folks to Thursday, right? Is the first night that folks can buy tickets for?
This upcoming Thursday is our first preview, and that's the first night that's online. So definitely go online and get yourself a ticket and use that discount Punchline.
And we'll make sure that we get the information on my Facebook page as well, folks. It's Punchline for a discount. It opens on Thursday for everyone, and then it runs through May 4th. I look forward to meeting you in person, Sid, and it's great to talk to you, Michael. Thank you so much for sharing this story and this information with our audience. I want to talk to you before the end of the run so we can get people out.
All right. Thanks so much for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you both so much.
Yes.
Have a good night. Go get them.
You too.
Break legs. My mom always used to say when I would go do stand up, she would say, "Go break your legs," and that was sort of intimidating.
Oh,
Have a good night, you guys. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Let's take a break here, and I got it on time. Right? Let's take a break here, and we'll continue and wrap up in just a moment on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal, KKNW in Seattle, Washington, and KTNF AM 950 in Minneapolis.
Dive deeper into the heart of the news and stories at WCPT 820 and across the Midwest by checking out our website, heartlandsignal.com.
It's the coverage I can count on every time.
For the latest news updates, in-depth analysis, compelling stories, comprehensive election coverage, live streams, and thought-provoking opinions, head to heartlandsignal.com.
When I need to know, they're there.
They keep me informed and updated wherever I am.
Stay informed with WCPT 820, your go-to source for where facts matter.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your home and auto. Then you could put that money towards some of the surprisingly more expensive things in life.
Attention passengers, we've reached 10,000 feet and internet is now available for purchase.
I just paid hundreds for this flight, and you can't even throw in internet? I'll just take the free pretzels.
Sorry, but I do have snack boxes for sale.
I'm just gonna sleep.
In that case, we are selling pillows and blankets as well.
I'll just breathe. That's free, right?
Life costs a lot, so bundle and you could save with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Every 40 seconds, a child is reported missing. That's 2,000 children every single day. It's a heart-wrenching reality that we can no longer ignore. Find the Children is a non-profit organization dedicated to helping find missing kids. You can be a part of their mission by donating your unwanted vehicle, running or not. Call 1-800-775-5622. We guarantee that you will receive the maximum tax deduction. We provide fast, free pickup with 24-hour response. Call 1-800-775-5622. Find the Children provides crucial resources to help find missing children and educational materials to teach kids how to recognize and avoid predators. Our recovery programs have a proven track record of reuniting kids with their families. It's time to act. Donate your unwanted or unused car. Help us build a world where every child is safe. Pick up the phone and call 1-800-775-5622. Together, we can bring these kids home safely. This advertisement was paid for by Cars R Us and Find the Children.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
This is Patti Vasquez. We appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Minocqua Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Arminetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we wrap up the show tonight. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us. Again, that was Michael Patrick Thornton and Sid Blakewell in their production of Obliteration at the Revival here in Chicago, opening on Thursday. If you go to the Revival .thundertix.com. Wait, is that right? Yeah, therevival.thundertix.com. When you purchase your tickets at checkout, you can put Punchline in and you'll get a discount on your tickets. I mentioned during that conversation that I had seen Norm Macdonald back in the 90s, and it occurred to me that one of the comics I had seen, actually, both of them are no longer with us. And the other comedians, one was Diana Limo. She passed away in 2001. And was just a wonderful comic. I absolutely loved working with her. And my other friend, Paul DiGiulio, not related to Nick DiGiulio, passed away over the weekend. And I did not know that he was not well. And I know that I hadn't gotten together with him in a while. We were doing breakfasts every month about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I was going through a lot with Declan, and then a friend of mine was ill in L.A. who I had not had a chance to spend too much time with, and I just feel bad. I feel bad that I didn't have a chance to see him, but I do know this. I know that when we hung out, we had a great time, and Paul was incredibly supportive. He was a fan of mine, and Paul was like one of these guys who was a cynic. I mean, Paul was the kind of guy who could trash talk everything, and he had this sort of quick mannerisms about him, and very funny comedian. He left comedy to become a teacher, actually, and he was a teacher for several years in the Chicago public school systems. I know that there was a photo on his Facebook page of a former student of his who had been wishing him a happy birthday, and they had a party for him and stuff. So that's always when you have your adult students still wanting to connect with you, you've made a wonderful impression on their lives. And my condolences to the friends friends and family of Paul DiGiulio. Paul in Seattle, different Paul together. Hi, Paul. Are you hydrating this evening?
Indeed. I love your story, your heckler story.
Thank you.
That was a really good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I even like that better than mine.
You've had hecklers?
I've had one or two. Yeah, I was playing guitar and singing in a place one time, and a guy said, "You suck," and I said, "Oh, well, thank you very much." I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, there's a guy over here who's concerned about my health." I said, "Well, you know, I've still got some itching, but the swelling has gone down considerably since the last time that you saw them. But thanks for asking."
Wow. Yeah, there you go. And how did it go over with the crowd?
It took people a moment to kind of get it, but I think, itching and swelling generally refers to, something in the posterior. And,
exactly.
Exactly. So, and then he kind of shut up, but I think this never reacts to a heckler, that's just, you'll never get out of it it's kind of like being teased by your older brothers or whatever. If you react, then you'll just get more,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
you don't want to feed them. It's like trolls online, but like sometimes you can't even really get away from them.
Yeah. So it's but I don't know. I think that he probably already had plenty of drinks in him. It's just if not, then there are people that it doesn't take more than a couple and they just get to be really just obnoxious.
Yeah.
And then they act like that. But I had another one that was pretty funny. I don't know if anyway, I was at a bar with some friends and got there way early. By the way, I was the one who was quite overserved that time, but so I was out on the dance floor and so there was these two blonde women who I guess at the table my friends were saying that they looked like they were twins. But so I was out on the dance floor and I was kind of using my white cane like I was doing a soft shoe, a song and dance soft. I was kind of dancing like that, and one of these the T for two type, and one of these women came up behind me, and she would grab my hips and she was like thrusting me, like she came up behind me, and I said, "Oh," and I thought, well, I have an idea. So I was then using my cane like a more phallic type thing, and then apparently, because I couldn't see this, but next thing, one of the women that was at my table grabbed me by my arm and said, "Get off the dance floor." And she said, when you started doing that, the dance floor cleared. Everybody just laughed. And she said, "Sit down. Don't
wow.
Don't use your cane like that." I said, "Well, gosh, she was thrusting me from behind." I mean, what I thought it was, it was kind of weird. I was very surprised, but I thought, "Oh, okay, you want to play like that? Okay." And,
Yeah, exactly. Let's do it. Let's dance, literally.
Yeah. Anyway, I loved your story.
Thank you. What's on your mind?
That was it.
That was it. All right, Paul.
That was it. There was no Trump. We could take a break.
A little a stroll down memory lane. I love that. Do you still play?
Sure. Oh yeah, I've been playing since 1976. Is I think when I first was professional. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you have Seattle listeners now. If there's any place you want to promote, you should let us know.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I'm not in any place around here right now. So,
okay.
But yeah, I take KNW. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have to clear something up because people are thinking that I said Nick D passed away, and he did not. It was Paul DiGiulio. So let me clear this up and read a little bit about Paul DiGiulio because I just found an article about him from 1989. So thank you, Paul, for the stories. It's great. And from one performer to another, got to keep our chin up.
That's right. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you. It's Paul DiGiulio. Gosh, I feel so bad. It's Paul DiGiulio. Let me spell the name for folks. Paul DiGiulio passed away. That's Digiulio. And here's an article from 1989, Lady B. In the world of stand-up comedy, where standard topics are condoms, cops eating at donut shops, and foreigners working at the 7-Eleven, Paul DiGiulio is an original. His humor is observational, even scientific. DiGiulio this is Paul. Everybody, I need you to listen to me. It's Paul. My friend Paul was a junior high science teacher before deciding to become a full-time stand-up comic. And with his quirky mannerisms, tightly cropped beard, and 100-mile-an-hour patter, Paul DiGiulio resembles the bastard offspring of George Carlin and Carl Sagan. This is an article about my friend who just passed away over the weekend. When he taught the occasional sex ed class to 7th and 8th graders from a Southside housing project, DiGiulio kept up his particular routine that he did an impression of a fallopian tube on stage, and I won't reenact that. But one time he did tell him, "I was going to teach you about menstruation, but I think it's the wrong time of the month." But only one person in his class got it. At any rate, he said there was a lot of hypocrisy in the educational system, said Paul DiGiulio. They wanted you to teach sex education because of AIDS, but they really didn't want you to teach sex education because some of the facts about AIDS aren't pretty. I said they don't want us to teach sex education because some people still think that AIDS can be transmitted through the exchange of knowledge. They thought the best forms of contraception were shame, guilt, and self-doubt. We'll miss you, Paul. And sorry we didn't have another breakfast at the Norwood Park restaurant. Cheers, my friend. At any rate, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I want to thank our sponsors. Thank you to Source Solar. Go to source.solar for more information about the work they do, and perhaps join one of the 100,000 customers that are happy with their solar panels on their houses and businesses. We also want to thank Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, and make sure if you can drive up to Madison, join us on April 15th for our live broadcast there. Thank you, Lady B. Randy Rhodes is up next. Bye, everybody at KTNF, KKNW, and here, WCPT.
After serving in the military, life can seem like an endless